around, straight up. And this is like deliverables from this program. And so that's why it's important for us to make sure as community health workers, we're bridging the gaps to all of the different stakeholders, because we don't have to do all the work, but we need to know who does. We need to know who does. It is our job to know who does what and make sure that people have access to them. Can I get an amen?
Amen. Amen.
Hi everyone. Most like my peers, I was a product of the social determinants of health disparities. In some way or another, I was raised by my single grandmother, and I was left there by my biological mom to be raised by her and my nana, who was elderly. At a young age, I went out seeking role models, and I found one with my aunt, who was my dad's sister, and she taught me the only thing she knew, which was how to do and sell drugs. By age 15, 16, I was very good at it. I was keeping up with most men that were involved in the same thing from my neighborhood. And I was wrapped up in that fast lifestyle, just like Dean said. And I was in the middle of, like Philip said, balancing out the getting high on your own supply. So just as I thought my life was spiraling down, I decided to take a chance at harm reduction. And I was able to get into a resource called medicated assisted treatment and methadone. I was on that for a couple of years when my grandma mom was diagnosed with cancer. She passed away, and my closure from that is that she didn't pass away wondering where my next fix was going to come from. So after that, it took me a long time to kind of process that and heal from that loss. And I spiraled down again, and this is what led me to prison. I started using meth at the time and using both heroin and meth, and I was a little crazy. So I ended up in prison for a gun charge. During this time, I was very much getting to know myself. I thought I was a badass on the street, and I get into a controlled environment, and you sit around bunks of women who have committed murders, and you realize that you're not as cool or crazy as you thought. When you witness real mental health diagnosis, and you're just like, dang, she started a whole conversation and argument with herself, but there's nobody there. Those kind of things. So quickly developed an understanding of where I wanted to be in the prison. I did not want to be there for any longer than I had to, and I knew that I was different, and I knew better than a lot of the folks that I was around. I went through many programs to try to get out faster once I realized that. And I did intensive outpatient treatment, which gave me like 15 days off. I was also enrolled in the GED program. When I started the GED program, I had 2 years on my sentence, and I started from multiplication tables on a cheat sheet like this. And this woman had to pull it away from me. And I'm like, nah. And she's like, here, give me the. And so I also found out that I was going to be there for a year longer than I had expected. And when I met with the caseworkers, it's a funny story. I walked in there, and you just picture it. I'm wearing orange, just like that, and I sit down at a table, and I'm there with the case managers, security, lieutenant, sergeant, and I said, please don't give me a mediocre job. As if every job in the prison wasn't mediocre, right? So they laughed that off, and they quickly assigned me to a pod porter. And after that, I wanted I needed to make money to support myself in there. So I tried to apply for the education department. There's one problem with that. You have to have education to work in the education department. So I was given the opportunity to work with Renee Chavez, as you saw in the video before. And my supervisor went and asked my GED teacher, what do you think about her? And she said, just hire her. She's going to get her GED. So I went every day, twice a day to class to learn past my multiplication tables. And I was already working for the supervisor of education. And you get to take the GED test 3 times. I was on my 3rd try. And so they sit the tests very similar to this, right? So he's sitting in back, and he can see over my screen. And I'm on the last problem of linear equations. And I looked over my shoulder, and he was like, Like he had already done this problem in his head and figured out that I got that one wrong. Luckily, I passed by a hair, and I was able to get my Also, while doing that, I was surrounded with a bunch of women who had a lot of needs. I also quickly realized that they were not acting out because, that's who they were authentically. They were acting out because of a trauma that they were experiencing, and that was the broken mommy heart. So Renee and I, these are our Moms from the Inside Out class. As you can see, we had one woman, she was pregnant in the womb. She gave birth and had to separate from her child while we were incarcerated. But don't worry, I stalked her on Facebook and they're reunified, still doing good. Update. So during this time, we redesigned a curriculum that was left over by the men, and we began to teach these women life skills, mothering skills. I wrote in a freehand chapter on guilt mothering. Oh, you weren't there for me. Why should I listen to you? You're not my mom. That was my favorite line to my grandma. You're not my mom. And if she ain't, who is, right? So I received a lot of weary from the girls of the prison because I was not a mother and I was teaching a mothering class. And so, I'm in prison, so what you know about mothering, what you gonna teach me about me? You're not a mom. And I said, yeah, but I'm also a child without a mom. And so the advice I have to give is coming from a child's perspective of what I would want my mom to do if she was in your shoes.
Yeah.
We also went on to teach some reentry classes. I had the same thing. What's your number? 82786. Are you gonna teach reentry and you never re-entered? And I'm like, you're right, but I've been here for almost 2 years and I've seen you re-enter twice. So there's a problem and a disconnection, and they don't know simple things. What's the definition of a program versus a transitional house? Things that need to be broken down and explained. Who is allowed there? Who's not allowed there? You're making simple violations and mistakes based off misinformation or no communication. So that's where the origins of a lot of my peer support and CHW career began without knowing it. And then some of the work that I've done in the community is in that corner over there. That is my violence prevention class in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So these folks are part of harm reduction. And I think the most special part for me here was having women tell me that they would like to know how I got to be where I am at. And they would tell me, you don't look like you ever did drugs. You don't look like you ever went to prison. And I said, that's right, because I have let go of those labels and identify with who I am now. And then one last piece for the advocacy and resources. So I went to the capital of New Mexico to advocate for the New Mexico Adult Educators Association and Adult Basic Education. So right now in our communities, they are trying to decrease funding or access to adult basic education programs while incarcerated. So if you ever have an option to vote on these kind of things, or if you see it come up in your community, please keep those programs in place, because there's no computer or online schooling that can do what this lady and this lady did for me. Speak a little bit about this young lady right here. You did a junior mentorship program incarcerated. So this is where we became role models for one another. So just as Renee was my role model, I also want to mention that I truly feel that even though I lost my mom, that I've had strong, independent, worthy women to come in and step in and be that guidance for me in many ways. Renee is one of them. Miss Diane is one of them that's here with us. So I've never lacked any kind of, relationship with a motherly figure. And so we've kind of, in women's prison, we develop a family concept. So you may hear people call themselves mom. So that's my daughter, that's my sis, and then we develop that because that's what we are in need of as a woman. And so we use that kind of, promoted that and use that as leverage to create a role model system that would get people who are not likely to participate in life skill classes or education classes to use a buddy system to kind of ease their way into those things. So fast forward out of that, I was able to create a career pathway into becoming a CHW. And immediately after I got out, I was hired as a peer support worker, where I helped people who were formerly incarcerated get meaningful employment, like Philip said. So we know that they can work at Subway, the gas station, etc. But most of them are coming into transitional living homes that are very costly. So they are never able to get ahead. And if they do, there's usually a technical violation that would occur before they can actually move out and move forward. And that's where the cycle continues. So that was my passion, was helping returning citizens using skills that they had gained in prison. They'll be like, well, miss, I don't have any experience. I was in prison for like 3 years. And in prison, you do have a work assignment. You are required to work in some way. So I would ask them about, well, what did you do? Well, I just cooked in the kitchen. You operated commercial kitchen machinery. You served banquet-style food for over 1,000 conference members. And you worked for the state of New Mexico. And then they would come back and they would look at and see this reflection of themselves that they had never seen.